Hey, this is Joe Sanfelippo. You're listening to the Geekcast Radio Network.
Once upon a time,
in a land beyond imagination,
comes the tale of Ever After High.
A high school for the next generation of fairy tales. Each student is charged with following in the footsteps of their fairy tale parents, ensuring their classic stories will continue to be told. But one student, Raven Queen, daughter of the evil queen, doesn't want to follow in her mother's villainous path.
And can you blame her? I mean, who wants to be the most hated of them all?
She is evil!
What if I want to choose my own happily ever after?
And this rebellion did not sit well for the royals at the school, led by Applewhite, daughter of Snow White.
She has to do it. I mean, if she never poisons me, then I'll never fall asleep. And I'll never be kissed by my prince. And I'll never become queen. And I'll never have my happily ever after.
And so we find a school divided. You have the royals, who were promised their happily ever afters, like Apple's best friend forever after, Briar Beauty.
Daughter of Sleeping Beauty. If I'm gonna be catching Z's for 100 years, I gotta live it up now.
Ashlyn Ella, the royal daughter of Cinderella.
New shoes?
And Blondilocks, daughter of Goldilocks, who's also a royal. Kind of.
On the other hand, you have the rebels, who feel they should be able to conjure up their own destinies.
I'm Cedar Wood, and I pledge to follow my destiny and be the next Pinocchio. Well, I mean, not the next Pinocchio.
And then there's Cerise Hood, daughter of Little Red Riding Hood. Let's just say, well, she's hiding a secret.
A big, bad secret. Madeline Hatter, daughter of the Mad Hatter.
Hello, narrators. Isn't it a fantastic day?
She can hear us. And since every fairy tale needs a Prince Charming, Ever After High is full of Prince Charmings.
Hey, Raven. You look great.
And of course, there's... Wait, what? Only 10 seconds left? There's so much more to say.
Ashlyn and Hunter are secretly dating. There's a giant named Tiny.
Hi.
And the headmaster has a brother. He's locked in a secret library underneath the school.
And so, there you go. The story of Ever After High
The end?
is just the beginning.
Hello and welcome to Geekcast Radio. I am your host, TFG1 Mike, and I am doing a latest interview here on the GCR feed. I have been listening to the AfterBuzz TV network for about half a year or so. I think I started listening to their American show. I don't know if I caught the very first episode of the podcast, but basically, what AfterBuzz TV is it's a network of podcasts that several different hosts for any number of shows. I mean, AfterBuzz has, 20, 30, 40, 50 different TV show review podcasts. What they do is they watch the show, then go into an actual high-tech studio. I mean, this thing looks like something out of Star Trek, for crap's sake. And they all talk about it immediately after the show. And one of the shows that I first heard, the guest that's going to be on with me here in a moment, is The Americans. And then I found out he was going to be on the Blacklist. And after listening to him and all of his opinions, I was like, I got to talk to this guy, because this is a cool guy. Not only did I find out after the fact that he is also a voice actor as well. Please welcome to Geekcast Radio Network, Joe Sanfelippo.
How you guys doing?
Oh, I'm doing well. This is going to be a blast because I completely agree with you.
On everything?
On the fact that I'm Team Sanfelippo I'm Team Uncle Flippo when it comes to the fact that she's his daughter. It's so obvious.
What else could it be? If it's not that, it's a creep. If he's not her dad, then the whole thing on the Blacklist is a creepy, weird uncle. I don't understand it. He's got to be your dad.
Exactly. Braswell is just nuts.
No, Braz, he's running up the flagpole over and over again, but he's naturally contrarian. So you got to understand that about Braz. So it's entirely possible it may be that he goes the other way because I've gone this way.
Yeah, and sadly, he's pulled Julia on his team as well now. Latest episode, she's like, "Yeah, I'm with you, Braz. I don't believe he's her dad." All right, so Joe Sanfelippo, where were you born, and how did voice acting kind of come into your? I know you didn't always want to be a voice actor when you were a kid. Not a lot of us did, but not a lot of us knew about it back then. But tell us a bit about yourself. How, where you grew up, how you get into the business, all that kind of good stuff.
Well, I was born in the beautiful San Fernando Valley, which, for those of you who don't know LA, there's LA. LA proper is a huge place, and the Valley is kind of like the redheaded stepchild of Los Angeles. And so, if you know anybody that lives in LA, you ask them about the Valley. It's kind of like Brooklyn, except with like Brooklyn is to New York without any actual cred. The Valley is kind of like an awful place as far as most people are concerned. But I was born in the Valley, and then I wound up at UCLA. When I was a kid, I used to be the guy who they would not let me sing in like the Christmas pageants in Catholic school. Like I wasn't allowed to sing because I couldn't carry a tune to save my life. So they would instead invent roles for me in all of these Christmas pageants, which is why I think I'm an actor. Is be like, listen, you need to shut the F up. So we're going to add a character that has a line, and that's you. So that's basically, I think, why I eventually became an actor.
Now, if you weren't acting, what profession do you think you would be in?
Oh, God, I don't know, man. I like to think I'd become a psychologist, although I don't know if I have the patience to talk to people about their problems for that long. But I think...
All right. So looking at your website, you've done a lot of announcing gigs, haven't you?
Oh, yeah, I've done a ton. Probably, I think about 80 or 90 commercials at this point.
Yeah. And the funniest thing, and I'm so glad I got to be able to talk to you, because I actually thought when I first started listening to The Blacklist, and when I first started listening to The Americans, I'm like, hey, is that David Kaye? What's he doing on AfterBuzz TV? I really thought your voice sounds similar to his, and then I look on your website and I'm like, oh, that's why I thought they were similar, because they've both done MLB Network and Fox Sports West promos.
Yep.
But I mean, it's staggering how much you've done in such a short amount of time.
Well, I think I think it's like you find your niche. I think sometimes in town, like I graduated from UCLA, and then all of us when we're in school, we all think we're hot shit. So we're all I'll do soap operas if I have to, or I'll do voiceover if I must. Because we all think that they're gonna be knocking down your door the day you graduate. But I don't know. For me, I finally found something I think that works really well. I did a lot of on camera, but that's not fair. I did some on camera, and it just, for whatever reason, I've never been quite right on camera. But I think voiceover wise, I seem to work out really well. And the nice thing is, you can be right for so many different kinds of voiceovers. When you're on camera, you're only how you look.
Yeah.
You can't really stretch that far. But when you're doing voiceover, you can be a ton of different people, and it's a blast. So.
Yeah, and I'm just now noticing on your website, joesanfelippo.com, with all these past works, that you were the voice of one of my favorite restaurants growing up in Massachusetts. You're the voice of Friendly's.
I was briefly. I did. I don't know how long I did with Friendly's, but I wouldn't say I was their voice for a hot minute. It wasn't. They flipped me pretty quick. I've been to a Friendly's. Are they good?
Oh yeah. Friendly's is, I'm trying to think of, well, I can only compare them to what's here in the South, here in Louisville, Kentucky, but they're kind of like Big Boy, like Frisch's, a little bit better.
All right, I'll take it.
It's that kind of restaurant. But you've also done stuff for Nintendo. You do the ads for the DS. You've done Lego City. What were you doing for Mattel?
For Mattel owns Monster High and Ever After High, and I'm the narrator on Ever After High, and I play a couple characters on that too. And that if you've checked it out, it's a great little show. They're selling dolls essentially, and the same business model they did for Ever After High, and they're great. And the guy who puts them together, his name's Audu Payton. He's the director, and he writes a lot of them. And he used to direct and executive produce on the Animaniacs when we were kids. And so working with him is a blast, because he does the voices he wants you to do better than you do, So he's like, no, you're almost there. Try this. It's a blast. He's a neat guy to work with.
Yeah, I watched that promo that you have on your site, and you're like, there's only 20 seconds left. How am I getting all this information? I'm like, oh my god, that's so hilarious.
He writes some funny stuff.
It's so hilarious.
They're all up on Netflix now. So if you go to Netflix and check out Ever After High, there's a ton of them. But that one's a lot of fun.
Awesome. What was it like working for ESPN?
It was real brief. It was that's how it was for me. They when they go through guys, they go through them. They use you for what they're going to use you for, and if they love you, they bring you back religiously. Unfortunately, they did not fall in love with me. I'm trying to.
It's their loss.
That's what I said. Screw you guys. No, and I hate them until they call me back.
Modern Family. Tell us about that.
Modern Family, I've done a bunch of work for. Generally,
are you just doing their promos, or are you doing the on-camera stuff?
No, that's been like basically background voice, and then a lot of like featured stuff, like pilot on an airplane kind of stuff, or announcer, or calling a football game, or calling a horse race, whatever's in the background that's specific, that's like that the cast is interacting with, that kind of stuff. I've gotten to do a whole bunch of, which is a blast.
Oh, sweet, awesome. Who are some of the people that influence you? Who are some of the other voice actors that influence you?
Well, I got really lucky. Like when I went to UCLA, I got into comedy with a bunch of great people. I did a lot of comedy with Taran Killam, who's on SNL now, and Nassim Pedrad, who's also on SNL, and Mikey Day, who writes for SNL. So these are some folks I got to do comedy with in college. And so when I first started doing voiceover, I started with Jerry Zucker. I was doing a pilot that he was doing called what's the name of that pilot? It was National Banana, and I did a bunch of voiceover for National Banana, and I had never really done it before. And so in the course of auditioning for some of the comedy stuff, he's like, "Well, I got these voiceovers I need. I think you'd sound great for them." So they were comedic, over the top, bizarre, goofy voiceovers, which was a blast. And then from there, I met one of the other guys on the shoot, and he asked me who I was rep by. And I didn't have anybody for voiceover, and he's like, "Well, you got to go meet my agent." So that's how I kind of got into it. And since then, it's been really cool because my agency represents a lot of promo people that we grew up listening to, and you meet some of these guys and their voices, you're instantly, it's bizarre because you've listened to them your whole life, so you're instantly kind of like comfortable around them. I don't know how else to describe it.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah, I agree.
And so, like Andy Geller is one of the guys I met over at Solid. I really am a big fan. He's like kind of like I follow him around like a puppy dog. I think he's probably tired of listening to me talk. I'm like, hey, tell me things. But he's terrific, and he does a lot of promos for CBS and ABC. And you've heard him your whole life. And he's just got one of those voices where you're just like, my God, man, he makes me sound like I'm a 12-year-old kid. It's unreal. But those are the guys I look up to the most, like the Andy Gellers, your Ben Patrick Johnsons, the promo guys that have like such an amazing deep sound that I naturally don't have. I'm not that deep, but they're for me they blow me away. And I got to work with a gal named Debbie Derryberry, who was the voice of
Jimmy Neutron.
And Debbie's amazing. And like you meet these folks and it's before you have time to get starstruck, you're actually able to talk to them for a little while before you find out who they are. So it kind of saves you that. Like if you meet somebody that's really, really huge that you grew up watching, or maybe you had, your kid watching in the case of Debbie Derryberry, you don't, you get a little messed up right away. But if you don't know who they are, you can establish a rapport. And then when you find out who they are, you're kind of, you're okay. You're like, we're cool. So, but that's the kind of stuff I enjoy. I enjoy meeting people who've been around and done it for a long time. It's a treat.
Yeah. You talk about the promo guys, and I know it's been a number of years since we lost Don LaFontaine, but more recently we lost one of the other great movie trailer guys. That was kind of sad. What was his name? Now I can't think of it. I know people are screaming at their iDevices at me now. All right, so where...
It's a small little world, man. There's not
a
handful of guys that they use for that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah. Where do you see, or where would you like your career to take you?
To be honest with you, I love where it is now. I love voiceover because it's not you feel creative. You feel like you're a part of the creative process, but you're not as how to put it. You're not as out there as you are when you're on camera. And for me, what I love about it is, number one, it's you're not as exposed. I don't think exposed is the wrong term, but you're not as available to everybody. And you have your privacy and you have your career, and nobody really knows whether you're doing well or not, and that's kind of a nice feeling. It's kind of neat. You know what I mean? If you're on camera only and nobody's seen you for a hot minute, they're like, "Oh, things are going terrible, huh?" But the other thing that's nice about it is you can be so many different things. Like, you can have, obviously you have a range, but you can do, I can play an older man, I can play a younger man, I can play, a higher pitch, lower pitch, and that is such a treat to be able to play different kinds of people, different kinds of roles at any given week. It's nice.
Yeah, very awesome. All right, how did you get involved with AfterBuzz TV?
My buddy Joe Braswell, who you are familiar with.
Yes,
Mr. Braz, he works over at E, and so he does. He was doing some stuff with Maria, and he was talking to her. He's like, I'm trying to get this podcast going on. It's going to be like like a pop culture podcast. I want to do this, and she's like, well, why don't you just come do it for me? And he's like, what are you talking about? She's like, AfterBuzz, it's my thing. And he, he looked it up and he called me up and he's like, we got to go do this AfterBuzz thing. And I'm like, what is this? And he told me what it was, and I said, I don't know about that, man. I don't know about talking about a show. I don't know if I could do that. And I was very surprised. Number one, how many opinions it turns out I had. Number two, I was very shocked. I was like, wow, apparently I have some thoughts. And I was surprised by how engaging talking about a show is if you can take it seriously. Some shows you can't take seriously, but some that are worth talking about. I mean, an hour is not enough, Yeah,
no. I mean, in the 6 years that I've podcasted, sometimes I've done 2, 3, 4 hour podcasts on certain topics. So no, I know where you're coming from there. So like I was saying off air, I first heard you on The Americans, and that show, when that premiered, I was like, oh my God, it's 2002 all over again, and FX is knocking us on our asses with The Shield, because The Americans was the first show since The Shield on FX that I absolutely got.
I cannot imagine how come its numbers aren't higher than they are. I mean, to me, I've been married 11 years. I think it's the best relationship show I've ever seen. I think they get a marriage on that show like nobody else. It's crazy. The interactions between Philip and Elizabeth, they're so brilliantly put together. The espionage stuff is so well done. I mean, it is, to me, one of the best shows on TV. I don't understand how the numbers aren't higher. I think it's brilliantly done. It's carefully thought out. Just this last week with Agent Gad, I don't know if you guys watch the show or don't watch the show, but one of the characters, they introduce you to his house ever so briefly, and they could have made it like a cookie-cutter suburban house. Instead, they made it clear that Agent Gad was in Vietnam and brought home a wife, and he's got 2 kids up on a mantelpiece that obviously it's in a shrine of some sort with fruit, and you're like, what is all this all about? They don't tell you. They just leave a mystery. Like, here, you know what? We set the table for you, and we made this character so much more interesting, and next thing. They're never lazy on that show. They're great.
The funniest thing, I just found this out, and I'm glad I was able to do this interview with you now, because you can bring this up on the next Americans for me. I noticed recently, going back through my Netflix queue, I had watched a movie a while ago called Beautiful Girls.
Okay.
With Matt Dillon, Mira Sorvino's in it, and Stan Beeman Noah Emmerich is in that movie, and his portrayal in that is so far from what Stan is. He plays this wild and out Massachusetts homeboy who's just like the party guy in high school, and I went back and I looked at it, I'm like, oh my God, because right before The Americans, where I knew Noah Emmerich from was White Collar. He had done a stunt, had done a stint on that.
He did the show too, didn't he?
Yeah. No, The Americans is by far one of the more interesting. Like, The Americans could only have happened now.
Yes.
It couldn't have happened 10 years ago.
100% on every level.
Because we're at a...
And as far as the style of television. You're 100% right.
Yeah. Because the thing is even 10 years ago, everybody still remembers half the stuff that happened with the Cold War. I mean, everybody remembers it, but it's like, by now, there's so much stuff that's happened since that it's so far in the back of our minds, and they bring a show on about it.
Well, we're far enough removed now, I think, that they can actually have a show that doesn't pick a winner. Like 10 years ago, you would have had to pick a winner, especially just post 9/11. You would have had to pick a winner. You would have had to say the Americans are the heroes and the Russians are the villains, and that's how it is. But that show would be boring as hell. That wouldn't be any fun to watch at all. But now that we've gotten enough distance, they can kind of say, okay, the Russians are not what you call it. No one's blameless. Everybody's gray. Everybody's wrong. Everybody's right, and it makes for a much more interesting television.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then and I'll say this again. I always used to think, and this was like back in his early days didn't Spader do Private Practice? Didn't he take over Private Practice at one point? I know he did something on that. I've never really been a James Spader fan overall. I mean, I've nothing against the guy, but I've just never really, because I always, and I know this is going to be insulting to a lot of people, I always used to think James Spader and Captain Kirk were the same guy, because they kind of sound a little bit alike. But no, NBC launched The Blacklist, and I was right there again, and it's like, wow. Yeah,
he definitely did Private Practice, and for me, James Spader's always been the drug dealer in Less Than Zero. I don't know if you've ever checked that out. It's James Spader, Robert Downey Jr. It's a movie, I think, I want to say 85, 84, 85. And it's basically about this high school kid who he just can't get his proverbial ish together. And he's got a big coke problem, and eventually winds up, he hits rock bottom. But it is wonderfully done. And if you want to see James Spader as a kid in a great role, and Robert Downey Jr. as a kid in a great role, check out Less Than Zero. It is really, they are babies, and they're brilliant.
Awesome. All right, what have you got that you can talk about? What have you got that's coming up for you?
I've got some stuff coming up for Bank of the Midwest, and Colorado Community Bank, Midwest Bank. What else? Some stuff running in Texas. More Ever After High. Some State Farm radio stuff coming up. I've got a Target radio spot coming up. Those should all be hitting the air pretty quick. And then, I've got the stuff that's on the air now. So, I mean, it's nice flow. Everything's great. So if you hear something from Target about a huge basket or something, somebody yelling at a basket, that's me. And then, and like I said, State Farm should be coming out in the next couple of weeks. And then Bank of the Midwest Bank. Those are two different banks, I think. And then Colorado, something about Colorado Community Bank.
Awesome. And you can catch Joe every week on AfterBuzzTV.com. You can actually watch him live. You can see him in person as they do these shows. The schedule is on the website for AfterBuzz TV. You can check out his website, josephsanfelippo.com.
Can I tell you one more thing we got coming up?
Sure.
This doesn't air till next week, right?
Right.
Or the week of this 8th or 10th, wherever you're listening to it, it's when it's airing. Okay, so we've got a new project my wife and I put together. It's called Miss Erin's Magical Dance Class. I don't know if you have kids or not, if you're listening to this.
No, I don't, but the listeners might.
If you have kids that are dance age, that are young dancers, it's basically a show to dance along with Miss Erin and her magical friends. It's an animated show that kind of teaches kids dance. So if you guys are interested, the website is MissErinsMagicalDanceClass.com. Check it out, and if it looks like something you want to grab it. It's a great show, and it's a blast for the kids.
Awesome. Yeah, we need more stuff that's a blast for the kids when it comes to dance, because Dance Moms just isn't cutting it.
It's a rough scene, man.
Yeah. All right. Well, I would like to thank Mr. Joe Sanfelippo for stopping by, taking the time to chat with me here on Geekcast Radio. Ask you to hold the line, and I'll be back after this with the closing.
Thanks, Mike.
Only on Nintendo 3DS. Lego City is under construction, and crime is on the rise. We need Chase McCain. This is his rookie mission, and it'll take everything Chase has to save Lego City.
Are we sure that parachuting down is the best option? Whoa! That wasn't a proper answer!
A hero and a city in the making. Lego City Undercover. The chase begins. Made exclusively for Nintendo 3DS. Rated everyone 10 and up.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. My interview with Joseph Sanfelippo. Amazing. Cool guy to talk to. Check out his website. Check out his animated series website. The links will be in the show notes as well. Just absolute fun talking to that guy. Great guy. So until next time, unleash the geek in you. This is TFG and Mike, and I will see you later.
You've just listened to Geekcast Radio on the Geekcast Radio Network. There are several ways to get in contact with us or leave feedback for the show. First, visit the website, geekcastradio.com, where you can comment on all of our different podcasts. Second, you can rate our show and leave us feedback in iTunes. Third, follow us on Twitter at Geekcast Radio. Fourth, become a fan on Facebook. Go to facebook.com/GeekcastRadio. Call the voicemail line 502-526-5821. Please remember to tell us the show you are leaving the message for and your name. So until next time, unleash the geek in you.